So this is the basic structure of the Black Forest Gateau that I've designed. On the bottom, we've got a crunchy biscuit base. That's going to add texture. Then on top of that, there's a thin layer of apricot compote, which works really well with the cherries, but also it acts as a glue for this layer here, which is an aerated chocolate bar. On top of that, we've got a mixture of sour cherries and a chocolate ganache, which is like a really rich, dense chocolate mousse. Next, we have a Flourless chocolate sponge, then a chocolate mousse, and finally, the key, the white mousse, the kirsch cream. I've designed this recipe so that you can make it in advance and assemble it on the day you want to eat it. So for the first layer, the crunchy biscuit base, in here, I've got some eggs and honey, and to that I'm going to add some icing sugar, some flour, a little bit of milk, some baking powder, and salt. So, once that's all combined, just pour it into a cake tin. Now, it needs to come to a depth of about 3 to 4 millimetres. This goes in the oven, 200 degrees centigrade for 10 minutes, after which time I'm going to take it out, cut it into 3, and then pop it back in the oven at 100 degrees for 30 minutes. If I don't cut it after 10, it's going to be too hard and too difficult to cut. Well, we did eventually manage to aerate some chocolate using a vacuum cleaner and a sealable vacuum bag used for storing clothes in. But of all the bags I tried, the only ones I could make work were these ones, space bags. And that's because it's got a valve that keeps the vacuum. Now, you'll need one of these. It's a hard plastic container. Made a hole in the lid by using a corkscrew. It doesn't want to be too big, that's a good size. You'll also need one of these. It's a whipped cream siphon. It's important to keep everything warm. The chocolate needs to be fluid, otherwise we won't be able to aerate it. Over here, I've got some chocolate sitting over a pan of hot water. I'm just going to add some groundnut oil. Now, the oil is going to help the chocolate take on the bubbles, but this is groundnut, so it's not going to add any flavour. From this point on, you've got to work really quickly. Charge the siphon up. I'm using 3 canisters here. I'm trying to get as much pressure in this as possible, because we're going to give this chocolate a head start. It'll already be aerated when it comes out of here into the box. Quick shake. And be careful, because this can go everywhere. Just work all the way around the base of the box. Now, quick as possible, you need the lid on. And straight in the bag. Make sure that you put the valve over the hole in the top of the box and seal the bag up. This is very important. Just run your finger along the seal to make sure there's no little holes. OK, take the vacuum cleaner. Remove the vacuum nozzle when the space bag is taut against the plastic container and the chocolate has risen. At this stage, it's full of bubbles, but it's still soft. If we take the lid off, the whole thing's going to collapse. So I'm going to put it in the fridge to set. Now to another layer, the chocolate sponge. In here, I've whisked egg yolks and sugar for a good 10 minutes until it's doubled in volume and the colour's gone lighter. Should look like that. I've saved some of the whites from the yolks, and I've got them in this bowl here. Turn the mixer on full speed. After a couple of minutes, the egg whites would have formed peaks. Should look like that. Now, at this stage, I need to add some caster sugar. And then put the mixer back on low speed and leave it for about 10 minutes. And what will happen during that time is the texture of this will change and become really creamy. So back to the egg yolk mix. I'm going to add some cocoa powder. And some melted chocolate. So incorporate the chocolate. Now, the reason for these two mixes is this base here with the egg yolks is going to add real richness, but it's not light enough. So I've whipped the whites with some sugar to make a meringue. By incorporating the meringue into this chocolate base and then baking it, we're going to get a really light sponge because there's no flour in it. I find flour tends to mask the flavour of food. So by leaving the flour out, we're really going to taste all the characteristics of the chocolate. But this is ready now. Now you can see how the texture of this meringue has changed. So it's nice and creamy. So just putting 1 spoonful in first, incorporating that into the chocolate without knocking out all of the bubbles. We actually make the chocolate mix less dense. It's kind of preparing it for the rest of the meringue. So now, all of this can go in. And very carefully mix the two together. So you're almost folding the 2 layers together. You're not mixing them because it's going to knock too much of the air out. Once that's mixed, pop it into a baking tray and get it in the oven. 20 minutes, 180 degrees.